Police officer Garrett Rolfe, who was fired for shooting 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks at a Wendy's restaurant, is now facing 11 criminal charges, including felony murder. We're hearing now, sources close to police departments are saying that there could potentially be a nationwide police strike coming after this. Many officers have already resigned across the country. And who can blame them? Law and order is completely breaking down. Rioters and looters who burn down hundreds of businesses and loot millions of dollars worth of goods are not being charged. They're not being pursued. As a matter of fact, not only that, but they're being released from jail in a lot of different cities across the country. Rioters who pull down monuments and statues and plaques are facing zero repercussions. The people who defend themselves, however, from this violent mob attacking them in the streets, those are the people who are being charged. Those are the people who are being arrested. Those are the people who are being called, quote, racial agitators by the city's mayors. So like I said, who can blame the police if they are planning on this to happen? Law and order has been completely destroyed. The process is almost completely fulfilled. And if we're going to get into these racially tense quarrels every time police officers shoot a violent thug with a long criminal rap sheet who is tackling them and punching them and beating them and kicking them, stealing their tasers not once but twice, and then firing the taser at the police, then why in the world did we fight for what we fought for in the 50s and 60s? If every time that we turn around, we're hearing calls for black-only spaces and Latinx-only spaces and Asian-only spaces, and black-only colleges and business loans and mortgage loans and affirmative action being reinstated and all sorts of other things, it seems like we're going in the reverse. It seems like the ethnic conflict is getting worse. In an ever-diversifying nation, you can't really be that shocked. This is what this is. And of course, this was never about the police. Of course, this was never about Black lives. Otherwise, Black Lives Matter would be protesting in Chicago after the deadliest day in 60 years, 85 people shot and 18 people killed in a 24-hour period. They would be marching in the streets in Baltimore and St. Louis and Jackson, Mississippi, and all the rest about the 8,000 Black Americans who are killed by other Black Americans on a yearly basis. This is not about police either, as we've said before, because if it was, then this would happen when a Black police officer does it, or when it's a white victim from a white police officer, or a white victim from a Black police officer. But it doesn't happen, because this is not what this is about. This is about race for Black Lives Matter, plain and simple. So we're going to get into a couple of stories today. The first one is from the CBS News about the officers who were charged. We're also going to talk about a story up on the redelephants.com about a potential police strike that is coming nationwide. Many officers have already resigned. We're also going to touch on the Albuquerque story once again. Before we get started, I just want to thank this video sponsor. This video has been kindly sponsored by Health with Vincent. In the year 2020, it's so important to keep your body healthy all the time. Collagen might be the closest thing that we will ever get to the real fountain of youth, and for good reason. Many health experts now agree that consuming collagen is as crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. So visit my page at the link at the bottom of the screen and secure your supply of the best collagen on the market I trust. Link is in the description below as well. Check it out. It helps this channel out tremendously. Now, of course, the media picks and chooses exactly what stories they want to do. Of course, this is exacerbated by the media. We know this, but the people are still engaging in this sort of activity, aren't they, right? There has to be some accountability for the people engaging in this activity. We can't blame one single group or one single organization for this chaos that is occurring. Right now, we are seeing hundreds of attacks occur, interracial attacks, by the way, that have occurred since the death of George Floyd, black and white attacks. If we look at the statistics, I mean, it lines up perfectly. I mean, this is usually the way that it occurs. Groups of people beating up another person of a different race, and it never gets covered by the mainstream media. It almost never happens in the reverse, but when it does, you can bet that this will be widely covered by the mainstream media, just like the DA announcing the charges against this police officer was widely covered by the mainstream media. So we're going to get into that story here. This is from CBS News. Fired Atlanta officer charged with murder in Rayshard Brooks shooting. The former Atlanta police officer who fatally shot a black man as he ran away with the officer's taser last week has been charged with murder. You notice how they leave out the part that he actually fired the taser at the police. Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard announced Wednesday Garrett Rolfe, who was fired for the killing of 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks, faces 11 criminal charges, including felony murder. If convicted, Rolfe could face the death penalty or life in prison without parole.
So these are the charges that we have had filed today, signed by one of our Superior Court judges. These are the 11 charges against Officer Rolfe. The first charge is felony murder. This is the death that is as a result of a underlying felony And in this case, the underlying felony is aggravated assault.
So then we have this story here up on the redelephants.com, and you can check this out for yourself. It's up on the website. And we are hearing that sources close to the situation, close to police departments, there are talks of a potential strike from many different police departments here. Several sources close to police claim there are talks among the nation's police departments about a possible strike reaching across the country's police departments in response to what is being called unfair treatment over textbook policing. Also, here's a tweet that I posted a screenshot of on my Telegram channel. Just got an email from an Atlanta police officer. Quote, Atlanta police officers are refusing to answer the radio and walking off the job. The county can go screw themselves. If they want a society without police, we will give them one. Let it burn. Then we saw this tweet here from Todd Starnes. Breaking news. Georgia police sources tell me only 2 police precincts are staffed in the entire city of Atlanta. Entire zones of officers are walking off the jobs. Zone 1, 3, 5, and 6 have left their posts. Zones walking off the jobs. Blue Lives Matter. Now, the Atlanta police refuted this. They said, quote, earlier suggestions that multiple officers from each zone had walked off the job were inaccurate. The department is experiencing a higher than usual number of call-outs, which means people call in to take off of the job with the incoming shift. We have enough resources to maintain operations and remain able to respond to incidents. Now, they were probably just saying this just to make sure that people don't go absolute purge mode in the city of Atlanta. And honestly, I hope there is some sort of something resembling a nationwide walkout or strike from police officers, especially in these major metropolitan areas. They should just pull out completely. Like I said, if we're going to get into some racially tense quarrel every time police are trying to do their jobs in these particular areas of the country, then just pull out all police in those particular areas of the country and see what happens. See what happens. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. We have this story up on TheRelephants.com. There was a couple of Black Lives Matter activists that were murdered and assaulted on several different occasions, not by white Americans, but by other black Americans. This is a video that was tweeted out by someone of one of them screaming about how she's always profiled, about racism, about police. I bet that this person was actually wishing that police were there at the time of this assault, at the time that this murder occurred. Black Lives Matter protester Olawatoyin Salau went missing in Tallahassee, Florida on June 6th after a string of viral tweets she had posted recounting an assault by a black male. 75-year-old Victoria Vicky Sims also went missing around that same time. Days after going missing, Tallahassee Police Department said Salau and Sims were found dead in a double homicide. Both victims were prominent Black Lives Matter activists. See, the media is trying to change your perception of reality, but we all know what truly is going on in these areas. We all know where the high crime areas are. We all know without looking at FBI Table 43A or the CDC report or scientific studies which group of people commit the highest rate of crime. This is the reason why the term flight exists. And it's not just for white people, it's for many people who want to get away from the high crime areas. So what do you think is going to happen when they defund the police or when they pull the police out completely from these areas where they're getting water thrown on them, shot with water guns, even before all this madness, this recent madness started happening? Police have been being attacked lately, have been being attacked by random rioters, and the mainstream media is not covering it. The mainstream media tried to get a third-party organization to shut down the Federalist and Zero Hedge, or they did shut down Zero Hedge from Google AdSense, for making money because they were reporting the truth about the riots that were occurring, the truth that the mainstream media was trying to hide, the truth that the mainstream media was trying to subdue. By the way, there is another story. I posted this video clip on my Telegram channel. A man was beaten by a gang. One of them shouted Black Lives Matter as they beat him in the parking lot of this particular store. You can see this here. Man beaten by gang, says one of them shouted Black Lives Matter. This is according to a news report that I posted on my Telegram channel. And this is happening all across the country. We're seeing hundreds of interracial attacks like this, black and white, that have occurred since George Floyd. Now, if this was in the reverse, if there was a group of white teenagers attacking a black American individual in a parking lot or something like this, this would be all over the news. This is literally what Jussie Smollett described happened to him in Chicago, basically, right? Shouting Black Lives Matter as they beat him, except this time we actually have video camera footage, and this time this man didn't have to hire anyone to beat him up because it happens on like a daily basis. According to the Bureau of Justice, there was about 547,000 interracial attacks that occurred between blacks and whites last year and occur every year. 90+% of them are black and white. So this happens all the time. They don't need anyone to, he doesn't need to hire someone to do this. This is going to happen. This has been happening. And the media doesn't cover it because they know it would completely destroy their narrative that they've been trying to sell to the American people for so long. And on police being attacked, Over the past few weeks, as law and order continues to break down across the country, police have been ambushed, assassinated, poisoned at restaurants, assaulted, and abandoned by lawmakers. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump did mention this particular person in his speech recently. There was a man, a police officer, who was shot in the head in Las Vegas by one of these rioters. He is now paralyzed from the neck down. Many different people have died in these riots across the nation. Many black victims shot over a TV. Does Black Lives Matter care? Of course they don't. Go to their About page on their website, the BLM Foundation's website, and you will see exactly what their goals are. One of their goals is to completely disrupt the nuclear family structure. That means fathers. They exclude fathers deliberately from the wording on their website. Very interesting how they have so much support and are now more well-funded than ever before. Even as police continue to face some of what the worst abuse we have seen in this country, President Donald Trump signed an executive order calling for police reform using racial inequality as reasoning for allocating resources to accountability within the nation's police departments. As officers put their lives on the line protecting this country from violent criminals, they're abandoned by lawmakers, hounded by the media. And as we have seen, they're being charged for simply doing their jobs. We're going to add to that story as more news comes in, of course. Many verified sources, many people who are very close to police departments are confirming this. Now, police have already been resigning all across the nation because of the breakdown of law and order. We went over this the other day. Police officers across the U.S. have quit their jobs in recent days. Here is where the resignations have occurred. We have Minneapolis, where multiple police officers, dozens of police officers are processing for leaving the city. Now, that is not dissimilar from what we're seeing in the real estate market in Minneapolis, by the way, where 1/3 of Minneapolis's real estate has gone up for sale in the past 7 days. Now, if you compare this to any other city in Minnesota or any other city in the nation, you're not going to find that big of a portion of the real estate going up for sale in the past 7 days. People don't want to live where there is chaos. People want law. People want order. And when you respond to violence with reward, like President Trump did, even if it's in the form of an empty box with brilliant wrapping paper and a nice pretty bow on top, which is what was his executive order, basically toothless, you're still responding to violence with reward, even if it is just a placebo. And you can't have that in a civilized society. No civilized society that exists has no laws, has no order. Order must come first. And this goes to the libertarians out there. Order must come before liberty. And you have to understand that. In Atlanta, personal data indicates that they have had anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 even officers resign in this month of June 2020. In South Florida, 10 officers resigned from the city's SWAT unit over concerns about safety because people were protesting the 2016 death of a black man that occurred during a dawn raid by the SWAT team, and the police chief was kneeling with the protesters. In Buffalo, 60 officers resigned from the force's emergency response team over the suspension of 2 police officers who were caught in a video pushing an elderly protester to the ground. So on and so forth, and this will continue. This is the destruction of America. America is falling, and our leaders are nowhere really to be found. A New Mexico man, as I stated in a different video, was charged after protest gunfire. A violent mob was chasing them. I showed you the videos. They're up on my Telegram channel as well if you'd like to download them. A man was being chased by violent protesters after they just got done pulling down a statue of Juan Ornate, by the way, or at least trying to, with no repercussions whatsoever. They beat him in the street, hit him with skateboards. One guy had a knife. That was the guy who got shot by this guy defending himself after he was chased down the street by them. And he was arrested. He was charged. And the city's mayor called him a racial agitator and said that people were just peacefully protesting the systemic racism that has been ingrained in our system for quite some time. Like I said, how can we continue? This is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. Now, I can't say much, but Tucker Carlson is right when he says that more radical politics are, in fact, in our future. They are. It's not if, it's when. There are many people out there, many organizations, underground organizations, ready, willing, and able to take advantage of the sliding window, these necessary occurrences that are happening politically. Take advantage politically, of course. So more radical politics are, in fact, in our future, and this is due to the absolute and utter chaos that we are seeing. The accelerationist utopia, I guess you can say, right? That is speeding up at light speed, way faster than I ever thought that this would actually happen. So I hope I will be here to cover it all and keep you guys informed. Make sure to check the links in the description below. Make sure to check out theredelephants.com as well. In your love, hear my voice. O Lord, give me life by your decrees. Those who harm me unjustly draw near. They are far from your law. But you, O Lord, are close. Your commands are truth. Long have I known that your will is established forever. My goal is to eventually become a powerhouse of truth. That is why it is imperative that you check the links in the description below and go to either Patreon and Subscribestar and support us for at least the cost of a cup of coffee a month. We already have writers writing for theredelephants.com, but we'd like to bring on more in the near future. By the way, at theredelephants.com, you can also find t-shirts, hats, and other products. Check the links in the description below. It helps us out tremendously.